Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of On a Mission with Brian
and Vanessa.
So today our topic is suburbs or towns. So the first time we came to Germany about 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
When we came on holidays, we didn't have the twins, we just had Antonio. And yeah, we came on a holiday, and I remember when we first were approaching Germany, we flew from Australia through Southeast Asia to Paris, and from Paris we caught a flight to Munich. And we arrived early in the morning, and as we were flying lower over, approaching the Munich airport, I remember seeing all these little villages, all these little towns along on the ground as we were flying. I used to think, wow, so many little towns. It's such a different thing from Australia. And then when we moved to Germany after a couple of years after that, so about 2 years ago, I discovered that really Germany, at least the area we are in, so I'm sure we're going to get some comments saying that it's not the same everywhere. So if you live somewhere else and it's a bit different somewhere else in Germany, just you can leave a comment, and then people can be a bit more specific about things. But at least in the area that we live in, it's not like what we used to in Australia or even what I've seen of America and other countries. That's what I mean to say, is that in Germany you have the city and then you have towns, but there doesn't seem to be really suburbs like we know them in Australia. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like, well, in Australia, obviously, like the suburbs are they kind of all join to each other. There seems to be kind of no end. But in here, it's like you have this little town, and then you just have all these fields of whatever they're growing, whether it be canola or wheat or
Corn,
potatoes. Plenty of corn, yeah, so many potatoes. And so then it'll just be, just complete farming land, and then another little town, and then farming, and then another little town. It's kind of set out that way, so all little isolated patches rather than just a blanketing of houses everywhere, like in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia, where we come from in Brisbane, when we first got married, we were living in Bald Hills, and it would take us about 35 minutes to get to town, to the city, what we call the city there.
Yeah, something like that.
We lived near the freeway. We'd get on the freeway, the gateway, and we would drive and get to the Brisbane city in about 35 minutes. And all the way, we basically were driving either through suburbs or right next to suburbs as the freeway went around. We could also go through a main road that would take us about the same time to get into the city, 35 minutes, and right through suburbs until you get to what is the city area, where you get all the flats and all the apartments and everything, a really built up area. And that's what we consider the city area, where there's not many houses with backyards, where people live in apartments, where people live in flats. That's what we consider the city area, is that right?
That's right.
And then the suburbs we consider where people have more space in the backyard and things like that. Here in Germany, we live in a town called Morenweiss, and we are also about 35 minutes, 40 minutes maybe from Munich, from the city of Munich. By train, definitely we can get there in less than half an hour. But yet, we are in a tiny little town. You can walk across our town in about 10 minutes, 15 maximum. You can walk right across the town. And you drive out of our town and you drive for about 3 minutes, and there's another little town just like ours. And you drive another 10 minutes after that and you find another little town, and it's like that. Germany has a city which it's quite big and has a lot of people, but they mainly have apartments, flat type looking things, or houses that look like a big house but actually have 4 or 5 apartments in them. Not a lot of backyards and things like that. And then you get farmland and a little town, and farmland and a little town. So the towns here are really like the suburbs for Germany. That's the way that I perceive it. How do you see things? Do you think that you could equate, that you could say, yes, the towns in Germany are like what the suburbs are for us in Australia?
Yeah, except they're just, I don't know, it kind of seems to be a bit more closed in though with each other. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is there is really no suburbs like in Australia. So if you would have to say that you live somewhere with a backyard like what we have and things like that, you're really living in a town. I mean, I'm sure there's some houses like this in Munich itself, but they're probably very expensive and very few and far between. And I think what really also surprised me was that before we came to Germany, I always thought of Germany as being like this really technologically advanced. I'm not saying that it's not, but that I thought that everything would be really like more ultra modern and stuff. And I'm not saying it's not ultra modern. I'm sure someone is going to say we criticize in Germany, but we're not. It's just there's such a rural lifestyle. You walk down the road and you see tractors going past with hay and with manure and with water, and we can walk behind our house here for 100 meters and we're in the middle of canola fields and corn fields. And
something I find a lot of actually is there's a lot of people that keep cows, except they don't keep them out in the field like we do in Australia. They keep them in barns, and as far as I've seen, they have the barn underneath where all the cows are, and then they live at the top. So it's like this double story.
It is kind of like it was in the old days. I mean, it's not the old days, it's nowadays. This is normal for Germany, but for us coming from Australia, it's really different. It's quite nice to see it different. So please, if you guys are watching this from Germany, don't take it as a criticism. We're just explaining how it's different for us. And there's also another thing I noticed here, and the other day I went for a drive with a friend and I saw something that actually surprised me. I saw this huge field with nothing growing on it, just grass that was cut low next to this forest and really nothing growing. And that is something really amazing in Germany. In Germany, every bit of land that's hasn't been built on or that doesn't have a forest on it has something growing, has some farming on it. Yeah. You don't see like in Australia where you go driving out the bush and there's like hundreds and hundreds of acres with maybe 5 cows or 2 horses or maybe nothing. Everything is used here.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. And I find that when they do their farming, everything's very accurate and straight and everything.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's like a bit of an artwork, really.
The fields look really. Of course, in winter they're covered in snow a lot of the time, or they're just barren. But in summer when things start growing, when it starts warming up, even our backyard looks beautiful. The grass is not just green. The grass gets filled with flowers of all different colors: purple, white, yellow. It is very beautiful. But as I said, very different to us. But yeah, maybe we're going a bit off topic now because we were talking about the suburbs and the town. So yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is here in Germany, really, unless you live in the city, and you really have to like that because it's really busy. Yesterday I went to buy something from someone in Munich through eBay, and I had to park about 1.5 kilometers away because I couldn't find a car spot. There was like, the streets are chockers with cars. There's not a lot of, as we have in Australia, multi-level car parks. Most buildings are old, so they don't have underground car parks. There are some, but not many. So it's really difficult to find a parking spot in Munich. That's why so many people use public transport. So if you want to live somewhere like what would be the suburbs for us in Australia, you would be living in a town. And
So-
yeah, it's a nice experience, but it's quite different. So I guess that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just talking a bit about the difference between what it's like living in Australia and in Germany. And yeah, so thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.